large relationship, there's always going to be things to work on, and that's why I would simply say that it's important that we have sustained engagement, and it's also important that we show momentum with our outcomes, and we've impressed that upon our partners, the Chinese.
I think the only thing I would add to that is if we look back over the last 8 years, it's been an important period in which we worked very closely with China during the financial crisis of 2009. Very open and frank discussion where we have differences. As the Secretary said, in an economic relationship this broad and this deep, differences are inevitable. The only question is, how do we manage them? And the JCCT has been a key mechanism for helping to manage those differences, to build cooperation, to develop shared understandings in strategic issues. And I think it has achieved a number of important objectives. But there's certainly much more work to be done, and as I mentioned earlier, certainly the American public expects a relationship that is based on a fair and level playing field and greater openness and greater reciprocity, and that is something that is continues to be a focus going forward.
Doug.
Hi, Doug Palmer with Politico. I just wanted to ask Ambassador Froman, you mentioned again the bilateral investment treaty and that there were discussions this week on that. There's just 2 months left in the administration. I mean, do you still think that there's a realistic chance of getting an agreement before the end of the administration? And does the fact that there's a new administration coming in, is that having any sort of inhibiting impact on the talks? And then just a little more information on the global forum. I believe, well, one of you said that Beijing would, or that China would be hosting that. Does that mean that there'll be a meeting in China? And what is it you would expect to come from the global forum? Some sort of binding commitments or just more talk?
With regard to the bilateral investment treaty, this is something that has been part of our ongoing dialogue with China for some time. From our perspective, it's an important mechanism for opening China's economy, for creating certain disciplines, and for promoting economic reform in China. We've made it clear that whatever we do has to be very high standard and has to address the very specific issues that arise in the U.S.-China context, and that is an ongoing process that we continue to have dialogue with them about.
You know, as it relates to the Global Steel Forum on excess capacity, the Vice Premier and his team have indicated that they appreciate how important it is to try and have that meeting. I don't think that there's a commitment that that meeting is per se in China, but rather that that meeting occurs before the end of this administration, and they understand that, and that's certainly something they committed to do before at the G20, which was to hold this forum, and we've encouraged them that the importance of them doing that and demonstrating their commitment to addressing what is a global problem, not just a U.S. problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I'm Jiangning Li from Shenzhen Media Group. So my question is, so you both identified in your remarks that bilateral trade is very important for both economies. However, there's been accusations that trade with China has been is responsible for killing as many as 2.4 million U.S. jobs for Americans. So my question is, how will the U.S. government reconcile the need and calling for more jobs at home and the commitments to strengthening economic ties with China? Thank you.
Let me begin. You know, we have to understand that trade is a part of the American businesses and American workers' livelihoods depend upon trade. We have, I think, somewhere around 11.5 million Americans whose jobs depend on the ability of American companies to export. And the way that our administration has addressed the need for trade and how to execute trade in a way that it is beneficial to Americans and our American workers, not just our American businesses, is to negotiate and work on trade agreements that express American values, that express values of the importance of labor, the importance of environmental protections, the importance of the ability of small and medium-sized businesses to benefit from trade agreements, the importance of an open digital economy because that supports greater access. And so it is very important that we pursue trade, and as the ambassador said, on a level playing field, and as the president said, you know, given a level playing field, American workers and American companies are up for the competition. What we work on at the JCCT is where we face an unlevel playing field. We work on both trying to explain policies that discriminate against American companies and American workers, but we also work on better understanding the situation within China so that we can help our companies navigate to the best of their capacity. And so I think that we have to, that's why this engagement is so critical, is because it is a mechanism for us to continue to create market access for American companies. And we did have very candid conversations with our counterparts from China about not only the realities of trade, unfair trade and unfair market access, but also the perceptions that exist here in the United States and their need to address both of them.
Let me just add that in addition to opening these markets and taking actions to level the playing field, one major area of focus for us in response to your question is the whole area of enforcement. And this administration has been deeply committed to trade enforcement from the start. At USTR, we've brought 23 WTO cases, 14 of which are against China. We've won every case that is brought to conclusion. And the Department of Commerce, that manages the anti-dumping, countervailing duty trade remedy laws, now has hundreds of orders outstanding, including a significant number vis-a-vis China and vis-a-vis steel and a number of other sensitive sectors. And so this is an area that is of continuing focus. We think it is very important not just that we help establish these rules, but that these rules be fully implemented, and where they're not fully implemented, that we use all the tools at our disposal, including our enforcement tools, to hold our trading partners, including China, accountable.
Thank you.
Just to underscore what the ambassador said, we have, in both the USTR and the Department of Commerce, we have made enforcement an extraordinarily high priority, and it's not just words, it reflects itself in our actions.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for today. For members of the media, the Chinese Principals Press Conference will take place shortly. Thank you.